Hello, this is Shinobi Bench. Today's topic is stuck on bench press, not doing high reps might be why. Let me ask you right away, do you ever perform sets of more than 10 reps? Or is your training mainly composed of low rep sets, like 5 reps or 3 reps? You might have seen on YouTube that if you want to increase your bench press max, you need to focus on low reps to train your nervous system. But if all you do is low rep training, that might actually be the reason your numbers aren't going up. In this video, we'll cover why your bench press won't increase without high rep training, the role of muscular endurance in bench press strength, the relationship between strength, hypertrophy, and endurance, the purpose of low rep training, concrete examples of high rep training that boost your bench press. For reference, in the last 2 years, I've increased my bench press by 52.5 kilograms, from 110 kilograms to 162.5 kilograms, and the turning point was when I started prioritizing high rep training. I've supported over 500 clients in Japan with personalized bench press programming and form correction. Over 90% of them have increased their bench press max within 3 months. Their strength levels range from 30 kilograms, female beginners, to 220 kilograms, a top 5 lifter in the 105 kilogram class in Japan. On this channel, I post videos about how to get stronger at the bench press. So if you find this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe. Now let's get into the topic. First, why won't your bench go up if you don't do high rep training? When people first start lifting, they usually begin with 3 sets of 10 reps, but as they get more experienced, they start exploring different set and rep schemes, like 5 sets of 5 reps or 5 sets of 3 reps. These approaches aren't bad at all. I used to train that way myself. The issue is when you rely only on low rep training. So what's the problem with always doing low reps? The answer is lack of volume. I talked about this in another video. Top 3 mistakes on the way to a 100 kilogram bench. But although low rep sets are great for building intensity, it's really hard to accumulate volume with them. For example, let's say you're aiming for a 100 kilogram bench. If you do 5 sets of 5 reps at 90 kilograms, the total volume is 2,250 kilograms. But if you do 5 sets of 10 reps at 80 kilograms, that gives you a volume of 4,000 kilograms. It's not quite double, but it's a significant difference. Hypertrophy is generally believed to correlate strongly with training volume. That means if you only do low reps, you may not be building enough muscle mass. As I'll explain later, strength gains are limited by muscle mass up to a certain point. If you're not gaining muscle, you'll eventually hit a ceiling in strength. Also, high rep sets naturally involve more reps, which gives you more practice with form, and that's a big deal. Especially for beginners and intermediate lifters, it's crucial to build a high total rep count and repeat proper technique until it becomes automatic. Of course, there are good and bad forms of repetition practice, and I discussed that in another video if you're interested. So what do you need to build your bench press? In my opinion, it comes down to 3 things: strength, muscle mass, and form. High rep sets are highly efficient for building muscle and reinforcing form. Yes, it's true that you can gain mass and refine technique with 5 rep or 3 rep sets, but as I mentioned, hypertrophy is volume driven. To get the same total volume, you'd need to do more sets. The same applies to technique. Fewer reps per set means you need more sets to get the same practice volume. Low rep sets definitely have value for optimizing technique at high loads and for developing neural strength. But in terms of hypertrophy and form repetition, they're slightly inferior to high rep sets like 10s or 20s. Let's move on to muscular endurance and how it relates to bench press strength. Muscular endurance refers to the ability of a muscle to repeatedly sustain exertion. Pretty much exactly what it sounds like. What's the benefit of high rep training for endurance? In short, you build stamina and can do more total training. For example, someone doing 5 sets of 5 reps might try 5 sets of 10 reps at a similar RM intensity, but find that their chest is totally blown up by the 4th or 5th set. Even though the intensity is the same in theory, but with continued training, you'll adapt and be able to complete all 5 sets of 10. And before you know it, you're doing twice as many sets as before at 5 reps. By training endurance with high rep sets, you gain stamina, which increases your total training volume, which in turn promotes hypertrophy and ultimately improves your bench press. Endurance training isn't exactly popular in the strength community. You may have heard claims like it doesn't build muscle, or slow twitch fibers don't hypertrophy, or even it shrinks your muscles. But I disagree. From my own experience, I believe endurance training can also be effective for hypertrophy. Take gymnasts for example. I used to do artistic gymnastics, and we rarely did heavy weight training, mostly high rep bodyweight work, but we were jacked. Another example would be track cyclists. Even though they perform sustained effort movements like pedaling, they often have huge thighs. Sure, they do squats too, but their primary stimulus is muscular endurance training. Scientific research also supports this. A systematic review and meta-analysis showed that hypertrophy occurs across a wide rep range, between 8 and 40 reps. I've included the reference in the description below. That means even rep ranges typically labeled as endurance can still produce hypertrophy. And as I said earlier, doing more reps means more practice with your technique. If you do 5 sets of 20 reps, that's 100 total reps. But 5 sets of 3 reps, just 15 total reps. Yes, you should also practice technique with heavier loads, but volume still matters a lot. Let's now talk about the relationship between strength, hypertrophy, and endurance. In today's fitness circles, endurance often gets overlooked. You'll hear people say that hypertrophy doesn't require endurance training or even strength training. And I've seen many cases where people want to build strength but neglect either muscle growth or endurance entirely. But I believe all three elements are interconnected. In watching many people train the bench press, I've found that those who plateau often lack either endurance or muscle mass, or both. So let's take a look at how endurance and hypertrophy relate to strength. Strength is the maximum force a muscle can produce in one contraction. To bench heavy weights, building strength is obviously essential. But think of muscle mass as the total height of a vertical bar. Strength is just the top portion of that bar. Hypertrophy training increases the total height of the bar. Strength training increases how much of that height you can use. If you don't train strength, you won't fully tap into the muscle mass you have. But if you do, you can increase your max output even without gaining new muscle. That's why, at the same muscle mass, one person may bench 120 kilograms and another only 100 kilograms. The difference is strength. In weight class sports like powerlifting, where gaining muscle is limited by body weight, you must maximize your strength within a fixed muscle mass. But even then, you eventually hit the ceiling, because your upper limit of strength is determined by muscle mass. So while technique and neural training matter, the fastest way to raise your strength ceiling is to gain more mass. And to gain more mass, you need high volume training. To handle high volume, you need endurance. To build endurance, you need high rep training. In the end, if you want to lift heavier, it comes back to doing more reps. Now, of course, this doesn't apply to elite level lifters. Guys who bench 180 kilograms in the 74 kilogram class or over 200 kilograms in the 83 kilogram class, they've already maxed out their hypertrophy potential. So their training focuses more on strength and technique refinement. That's why their programs often emphasize low rep, high intensity work. But even top lifters use high rep work. After competitions, many of them take an off season and use high rep training to rebuild. It's just that those sessions don't get posted on social media. They're not flashy. So unless you're at that elite level, beginners and intermediates should focus on high rep work. Now, does that mean you should stop low rep training? Absolutely not. Increasing strength with low reps means you can lift heavier weights, and heavier weights promote hypertrophy too. So again, strength, hypertrophy, and endurance all support each other. How should you include low rep training? I recommend doing a top single in every session. Not a true one RM, but maybe 10 kilograms below your max. If you succeed, go up 2.5 kilograms next time. If you fail, drop down and restart. I explained this method in detail in another video, so feel free to check it out. Just that one heavy single per session is enough to stimulate strength development. Overall, I'd say only about 10% of your total training should focus on pure strength work. Here's what a session could look like. Perform your top single, then do 5 sets of 10 reps or 3 to 5 sets in the 5 to 10 rep range. This way, you build strength while prioritizing hypertrophy and endurance. Let's wrap up with a few examples of high rep bench training. The most basic and highly recommended option, 10 rep sets. Try 5 sets of 10 or even 10 sets of 10. Some people hesitate to use 10 rep sets for bench press, but this is a classic and effective approach. It improves both hypertrophy and endurance and helps push your max upward. I personally use 10 rep sets as my foundation while going from 110 kilograms to 162.5 kilograms. Even now, I include 3 to 5 sets of 10 as a finisher, depending on my main program. Another favorite method, end each workout with a high rep burnout set, 20 reps or more. This was especially effective during my time on the 5-3-1 program. That final set gives you a different kind of stimulus. Sometimes you're moving fine until rep 19, and then suddenly rep 20 just won't budge. But if you keep at it, your stamina improves, and soon enough, you're locking out that 20th rep. During that period, my max jumped from 130 kilograms to 135 kilograms. And one final tip, I secretly use push-ups as an assistance exercise. After benching, I do a burnout set to failure. I recently hit 40 reps, and by the end, my chest is on fire. Push-ups are said to involve about 2/3 of your body weight. So for me, it's like doing 40 reps at around 55 kilograms. By the end, my chest and triceps are cramping hard. But ever since I started doing that, I've noticed that I don't fatigue as easily when going heavy on bench. I can now push through tough reps on both my work sets and max attempts. And finally, the most important message. High rep training is absolutely essential, but even more important is enjoying the process. If you force yourself to do training you hate, you won't stick with it. If you love heavy lifting, that's probably why you want to improve your bench. Same for me. I love heavy singles and max attempts. So if you're not feeling motivated for high rep work right now, that's totally fine. Just remember today's message when you hit a plateau. Once your numbers start going up again, high rep training becomes fun too. If you found this video helpful or want to support the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let's keep pushing our bench press together. See you in the next one.